What is going on, everybody? Nasdorachi coming back at you again today with another video for Dragon Ball Legends. We will be covering the April tier list for the meta in the game up until this point of April 15th as of me recording this. And, we generally do this every, month or so periodically for the game, cover the units, see how they stack up. There are a couple of notable things I want to get out of the way before we start. First and foremost, of course, is always thank you to SNAPSHOT for helping provide this back-end information. With that being said, I am covering somebody else's tier list as per the norm recently, so if you see something and you disagree with it, feel free to comment down below your disagreements or agreements, but don't automatically assume that I'm the idiot, because again, I'm just the messenger bringing this information to you. Now, I generally do agree with most everything Rosey says, but if there is the case where something is different, I will verbally correct it and say what I think it should be. So keep that in mind, and again, thank you to Rosey for the information. Point number 2 is Devil Takoyaki, or Thon on Twitter, always takes the ugly tier maker formatted lists and turns them into this very nice looking graphic. So I do always want to give a shout out to him for consistently helping me out in making these graphics and making the process of creating these videos a little bit less of a headache. So thank you, sir. I appreciate you very much. And the third point, which is consistent across all these tier list videos, this third point, very important. For this tier list to work, for these rankings to work, you must assume that every single character in the game is available. You can't compare characters based on the fact of, well, I don't have access to one and I have access to another. Now, in certain situations, I will say this character is a good fill-in if you don't have the other one, but in terms of how they stack up, how they rank, again, we have to assume that the roster is open. This also goes for Zenkai units. All Zenkai units on the list will be Zenkai 7 because people out there have done it already. They have access to it. It's something you can run into in PvP, so there's no point in classifying them randomly based off of different arbitrary Zenkai levels. We're just going to cover everything as if it was fully available. So with that being said, those are the 3 announcements before we jump in. Starting at the top, Z tier, Majin 21. The game's first collaborative unit where they have pulled a character from another game franchise entirely, be it still Dragon Ball, but it's the first time they've done that, so they went above and beyond the call when they designed her kit. She's just got offenses out the butthole, the passives that reduce her swapping times, the green card, the health, damage buffs, transformation, the stats. Everything about her is like full tilt crazy, and she is, of course, an amazing unit. Probably, again, looking at the chart, the single best kitted unit in the game, with also the support of some very hyper strong teams. You got the females team with Red 18 and Free to Play 21, swap buffs all over the place. She also fits in great on Regeneration with Baby and etc. So multiple very good teams, extremely well designed kit with lots and lots of powerful features, makes her, again, the best example of the single best unit in the game currently. Again, all things will change over time and things will shift around, so next month's tier list might look a little bit different. We don't know. Next up, Zenkai 7 Fat Buu. We all know, or at least most of us that are consistently playing the game know, that he is a problem to deal with because of his overwhelming healing. He doesn't have any hard defensive cover cut options when he swaps in, but he just makes up for it with health restoration, some pretty good hybrid damage buffs, and his little 5-second lock-ins. Of course, synergizing with Super Baby 2 for the health restoration buff makes him absolutely absurd when he is fully buffed, and again, Regeneration is a hyper-relevant high-tier team, and that gives him extremely high placement on this list. Next up, Zenkai 7 Beerus. Very similar. Once he's fully buffed, he is a monster. His kit features different aspects that he pulled from all over the game, featuring support buffs, heals, debuffs for the enemy, locking out their main ability, lots of offense and defense. He can remove buffs with his green card, just tons of different features to this Beerus. And when you pair him with either Rosey or Whis and a well-built God Key team, he excels at killing and not taking too much damage himself. So very, very competitive unit, but really only once Zenkai'd and highly boosted. If he's not Zenkai'd, he's pretty much terrible. So you have to get him to those very, very high milestones to reap the benefits. And then he's extremely good. Yellow Gohan is next. He's been in the game for a considerable amount of time. Most of us know why he's so frustrating to deal with, but just hybrid offense-defense unit, great green card, high blue card damage, steals Dragon Balls, lock in. He's just got a little bit of everything going on, and he's got high damage output. He also places extremely well on movies with Beau Jack. He's going to be increasingly relevant on hybrids with Zenkai Gohan and the new Red Trunks and stuff like that. Son family even, so multiple good team placements, extremely good kit, equals very high placement. He's been here for a while. He'll probably hang around in the top ranks for quite a while longer. Next up, Baby is on here because he synergizes extremely well on two powerful teams, be it Redjen, of course, and GT. He is on here pretty much just for his healing restoration buffs. He's one of, if not the best, support units in the game because of the insane thing he does for the health of his teammates when swapping around. It's literally absolutely absurd. And then you combine that with just built-in heals from characters' main abilities, green cards, or passives. All of that skyrockets and makes him just on a whole nother level of ridiculous when paired with the right teammates like Fat Buu or GT Super Saiyan 4 Goku or pretty much anyone on Redjen because they all heal in some capacity, at least the relevant ones. So just amazing support character. Next up, Super Saiyan 4 Goku. Powerhouse damage dealer, has great green card that removes debuffs and buffs himself. It's got great ultimate arts damage, restores ki, and has built-in defense and healing passives as well. Just a shining example of how to build a very powerful offensive unit. Mostly useful on GT, but can be used on Son family also, giving him a little bit of range of usability. Next up, we have the Legends Limited Piccolo. He is a very combo heavy unit. He can combo for days and days with his reduced card cost and card draw speed. However, he doesn't do a whole lot of damage until you get to the point where you transform, buff his stats, use his green card, and then you can start nuking with the blue card, which does a tremendous amount of damage. But until then, he's just really good at extending combos, keeping the battle going, keeping the fight swinging in your favor just with his really, really long combos, and then transforming, getting pretty amazing stats, and nuking everyone at that point. Just green cards, blue cards, green cards, blue cards. It's just like guaranteed combo with him, and it does a ton of damage. Also, synergizes mostly on Redjen, but can fit into that like Saiyan Saga arc build team, but a little bit less team versatility, a little bit of competition with Yellow Perfect Cell, depending on the star count, and I don't know, he's still extremely good. He's just mostly a nuking unit. Also, with Bardock, one of the two only units that now feature cosmetic transformations, which hopefully will be something we see more of moving forward. Next up, Legends Limited Vegeto has always been sliding around in this top tier for quite a while now, just depending on the relevancy of his team. By himself, he's an extremely well-kitted unit, one of the best in the game, seeing as how he's literally almost a year old and still holding top tier value. But the Fusions team is kind of increasingly and decreasingly relevant. They kind of pepper in really good units here and there and bring them back, and I do suspect that will pretty much always be a thing, because with Dragon Ball, Fusion's synonymous with high power levels. So we're going to see stuff like Kefla, the Fusion Zamasu, of course, the God Blue, Gogeta, and Vegeto at some point. So Fusions likely will always be a relevant high tier team, and this Vegeto will likely always be relevant because as soon as he starts to get heavily power crept, they'll probably Zenkai him. So I would expect to see him top tier for quite a while. Next up, we have Legends Limited Frieza. He was the exact support unit that Lineage of Evil and Frieza Force really needed to capitalize on all the good tools they already had. Saiyans are always going to be a big thing in this game, and with pretty much all of the Frieza Force and Lineage of Evil members doing good damage to Saiyans or having great anti-Saiyan passives, it's likely they will almost always be a high-tier underdog team, and with good support units, good defense units, and good offense units, they're now really well-rounded. So this Frieza was an amazing add to the game, has got possibly not really that great of offense and defense by himself until he starts throwing out his ultimate arts. He can combo with green cards coming out of a cover exchange, something no other character can do, with cover swap, green card, and then combo extend. Nobody else in the game can do that except for this Frieza, so that gives him some pretty unique value right there as well. And just overall, very, very well-rounded, good character, but mostly for his support, not for his offense and defense. Next up, you have Legends Limited Vegeta. Great offensive option for your God Key team, especially if you don't have the Zenkai Beerus, fairly well off. And he combos for a really long time. He's got good sustain on green, high damage Ultimate Arts character, very, very competitive. God Key right now might be on the fence of falling off a little bit, but I do suspect that the anniversary might bring some love for future in God Key. Maybe Vegeto, maybe stuff like Fusion Zamasu or Spirit Sword Trunks. Whether or not he would classify as God Key, I don't think. But I would expect God Key to be getting a boost regardless at some point. There's plenty of God Key characters in Super, so I don't expect that team to fall off either. Moving down to S+ tier, we start to get through some of these characters a little bit quicker. We'll spend a little bit more time on others. We have Shallots. Everybody in the entire game has him. He just became a monster after his Super Saiyan 3 transformation. Of course, he's a wet noodle before and after the transformation, but he's a great health buffer for Saiyans, and he's an amazing combat unit while that transformation is active. Competitive with pretty much every single sparking in the game with no worries of color disadvantage. He is definitely, at this point, a high value unit who will likely just continue to hold or increase in value as more customization and different forms become available to him. So we'll have to keep an eye on him, but it's really nice that a character that every single player has access to is this competitive. Again, very nice step. Next up, Legends Limited Namek Goku. He's been in the game for quite a while now, is also a very high value unit, capable of doing monstrous damage, especially as last man left alive, but he's starting to power creep down a little bit, not much, but it was mostly the combat changes to passive playstyles and tackle and stuff like that, the long range tackle, that kind of hurt him a little bit. You still can get those same powerful results as before, it just requires playing him a little bit better. You have to be a little bit more on your toes and you can't be as passive with him. He also combines very well with the red transforming Bardock to have two options for a last man standing unit, so no matter who dies, you will have a powerful option. But you'll mostly see him on generic Saiyans teams, Super Saiyan teams, or possibly Namek Saga teams, but the first two are definitely going to be the more relevant options for him. Next up, we have the new Zenkai 7 Gohan, who's a great melee offensive unit. He's also good at being anti-regeneration, and he helps out the hybrids teams with their relevancy quite a good little bit. You can combine him quite nicely with the yellow transforming Super Saiyan 2 Gohan and the new red Trunks to have some really good anti-regeneration options and some pretty powerful tools to deal with other top tier meta teams. It's kind of like a counter team for regeneration almost, but he is a very competent character who greatly benefited from his Zenkai buffs, again giving him a now competitive set of stats and kit. Next up, we have Beau Jack. He combines with the yellow Gohan to be probably the most annoying duo of characters in the game, between the swap passive for cover change and then the lock-ins and the stuff that Gohan can do. Beau Jack by himself is not super tanky, don't want him to take too many hits, but he's capable of comboing very well with red cards, doing lots of damage, has an auto built-in heal, and again, has just got that best cover exchange in the game that combines with movies to make him part of the top of the line, top tier meta builds available in the game. Next up, we have Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, who is actually pretty much the same as Super Saiyan 4 Goku in terms of offensive value. The only thing that has him ranking down a little bit is that he does not have the tools in his kit for the defense and for the healing that the Goku has. So Goku has amazing offensive power, also defense healing tools, whereas Vegeta is just all offensive power with the added offensive feint on his ultimate arts technique. And that's pretty much the only reason why the Vegeta ranks a little bit lower. Also, the Son family team is arguably a little bit better than the Vegeta family team right now, but that could always change in the future. They're very, very close to each other in value, with Vegeta, again, just missing out on those defense and healing tools to keep him quite as nicely well-rounded as the Goku. Next up, we have movies transforming Super Saiyan Vegeta. He is, again, your best point unit for the movies team, provided he's highly starred. He's got some competition now with Zenkai Blue Broly and the DBS Broly Chilai, But by now, if you have him highly starred, he's probably still your best point unit for that movie's team with his blast armor, his high offense, healing on blues, and good stats. I mean, he's just an all-around great character to lead that team in the very beginning of battle. Next up, we have the Zenkai 7 14-star completely free-to-play Kid Goku, an amazing unit who, just based off of his battle powers and what he can do in battle, could arguably be a Z tier unit, is only brought down by the fact that the Dragon Ball Saga and the Legends Road teams are just non-existent in terms of competitiveness at this point. And that's what his Z ability is built for, that's what he's meant for. So unfortunately, because those two teams are terrible, his only placement is on generic Saiyans. Now he fits that team quite nicely, but again, he's not helping it out at all. So it's kind of a wonky placement just for now until either Legends Road gets 2 other Zenkai characters or until the Dragon Ball Saga gets a competitive build. At that point, I do believe his value will go up considerably, probably into Z tier territory, unless of course it takes so long for that to happen that it gets power crept back down. So we'll have to wait and see. But pending Legends Road teams being competitive or Dragon Ball Saga, he will be one of your best characters in the game. But right now, he's still up there, but he's just lacking that really solid team placement. Next up, the Transforming Vegeto, amazing offensive unit with a great kit, key out the butthole whenever he needs it, good green card, again, great stats, great damage, but Fusions does need, he's actually the illustrating point, one of the great points to show how Fusions needs a good support unit. They do not have any support, they've got offense and defense as much as they could possibly need, but when it comes to a character like what the Legends Limited Frieza does for Fusions, they desperately need that now at this point. I mean, Fusions is still a very high tier competitive team, and when they get that support unit, the value of all of their members, as well as this Vegeta we're talking about right now individually, will likely go up. So hopefully we can keep our eyes peeled for that, and it does happen relatively soon. Although it's going to be interesting, which fusion units do you think they're going to pick to be the support role? Because most of them are all known for doing high damage and stuff. So that's something interesting we'll have to keep our eyes on. Next up, Transforming Bardock. He is, once fully activated, again, possibly one of the best units in the game, but his main detractors are that it takes just so dang long to get him operating. He takes 50 seconds, provided no one on your team dies, to get his transformation in, and then another like 5 to 10 seconds to use his second main after that. And then ideally, he's the last person left alive on your team just to get the most out of all of his buffs and his kit. That's a very risky strategy. It's also very, very time sensitive. And those are the 2 main reasons why he ranks a little bit lower on the tier list. Just those 2 things alone. He's got good placement on generic Saiyans or Bardock squad, even though Bardock squad might be a little less competitive, but good team placements, good kit, good stats. It's just the restrictions that keep him, you know, last man left alive or late into the fight. Those are the things that are his really only drawbacks. Next up, Perfect Cell. We really don't need to cover him at all. Just a great regeneration unit with the IT save. He's probably one of the units that's been in the game the longest and held value for the longest. He's still competitive even to this day, but he does kind of need like 2 red stars or higher to really shine, because his stats otherwise won't be as high as they could be in comparison with some newer characters. But he is fully competitive, great kit, great damage, good character, hold value for a long time. Good Cell. It's very good of him. Next up, we have Full Power Final Form Frieza. He is your hard defense unit for Lineage of Evil or Frieza Force, having the endurance, having the defense on swap, and key removal from the enemy. He's a great example of a good defensive role for his team. He's also the only other unit in the game besides the new Zenkai Kid Goku who both has endurance and can also remove endurance from the enemy. So that's a pretty unique feature, only 2 of them have that. And after he uses his main, he does really good blast and blue card damage. So he's a fairly well-rounded character, pretty good green card on him also, just stinks that it can only combo into blues. But outside of all that, he is, again, very good example of a good defensive unit. Next up, we have Transforming Trunks, mostly just held back by his weaker team placements, be it Vegeta family or hybrids. Although with Hybrid's family starting to make a come up again, he is going up in value as well. And again, the Zenkai Teen Gohan to combine him with for the Zenkai buffs and the Hybrids buffs. We also have Vegeta family is coming up a little bit, but more so Hybrids. I would place him most likely on Hybrids, potentially on Future as well, depending on what we're looking at up and coming. Future is another team that is in development and shaping up to be an extremely good team. They're still on their way though, they're not quite fully there yet. Next up, Red 18 used to be much lower on the tier list, but ranks so highly now due to her swap synergy and team placement with Majin 21 and the free-to-play 21. That trio is extremely dangerous. They all synergize well together, extremely well together, and she is now quite a good unit that more units have come out. And that's interesting to see. Like, I wonder what other units further down the list are going to skyrocket in value when a new unit comes out that synergizes really well with them. Something interesting to think about, but definitely a unit that wasn't very valuable that is now extremely valuable, especially again if you want to run that Majin 21, 21, 18 trio. Next up, DBS Broly with Chilai. Arguably a good swap out for the transforming Vegeta for movies, but finds a better home on the Frieza Force team. He has got absurdly high damage with additional permanent stacking damage buffs on swapping in and out, and he's got that really frustratingly effective green card, which destroys all the enemy's cards, removes all their buffs, or steals their Dragon Ball. When you run him on Frieza Force and you combine him with that red Ginyu Goku, it's likely that you'll be getting 2 to 3 Rising Rushes while your enemy will struggle to even get 1. So really annoying teams capable for this Broly. And again, especially if you get him 6 stars or higher, he is a good potential swap out for the blue roll on movies also. Next up, we have Purple Godku. He's a very good tanky character who can output some reasonably dang good damage, especially after some of his buffs start steamrolling up, and his green card features a really useful Immobilize. He's arguable as to which unit you want to use on Godku between him and the purple Vegeta, but the Vegeta is a much more assassin melee damage based role, and this Goku is much more sustain, defense, and a technical type role. So it is good that even though they're both purple, they have different roles they fill for the team, making them both pretty useful, and neither one of them has really lost too much value because the other exists. So that's quite nice. Again, this Goku is a very effective choice for your God Key teams, but pretty much nowhere else will you use him really at all. Next up, we have Rosey. He's your great red choice for God Key teams. Arguably better than Whis because his stats and his damage output and his kit will be a little bit better for winning fights. However, Whis of course will have the heals, the green cards, and the better support aspects. However, the Rosey does provide that really good debuff for all God Key units to take advantage of on his own team, and because of that, he will still combo very well, not only with the Zenkai Beerus, but with the Legends Limited Vegeta on either style of build you want to run. And again, Future is an upcoming option for him. We'll have to keep our eyes on that, but I'm sure we're going to be getting more relevant Future units here soon enough. So Rosey's value probably not going down anytime soon. Next up, Free to Play 21. Again, amazing synergy with Majin 21 and Red 18 for all the swap passives and buffs they have to share. Can also be used with Majin 21 on a more regen heavy based team, but just essentially she's tied to the hip of the Majin 21. Whenever you see one, you'll generally see the other because they work together to make a perfect pair. Like, their synergies are amazingly good. And previously to the Zenkai Kid Goku, the Legends Road one, she was the best free event character in the game. You know, other than Shallots, of course. He's different though. Everybody has him. So again, Majin 21, 21, and 18, or Majin 21, 21, and a Regen character, both highly effective builds, and she's a very good character. By herself, she's okay, but again, with those team synergies, she does become amazing. Next up, we have the new Trunks, who is actually extremely good for the Hybrids team. Not so much for Future or for Vegeta family because there's a lot of competition there between Rosey and Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, but Hybrids only had the older Legends Limited Gohan. He's the only other spot for that role on the team, and this Trunks is good throughout the entire fight, whereas that Gohan is much more a last man standing unit. Also, this Trunks does feature some anti-regeneration buffs, which will combine very nicely with the Zenkai Purple Gohan's anti-regeneration stuff he has going on for a kind of like a counter-regeneration build team. So even though Legends Limited Gohan still exists, this Trunks is coming out as a pretty valuable unit with a good placement to help bring hybrids back. Again, outside of that, not too sure about his value in placements, but, you know, hybrids, he was good there. He's good there. They needed him for sure. Next up, we have the Redjen Mnemba, who is your best red option currently for regeneration, I would say, especially if you're facing a movies team. He's got a more balanced kit that is less key demanding than the Kid Buu. So I do again think he is better for the team. Kid Buu's still usable, but Janemba features the Immobilize, reduces the cost of his own red cards, has the massive damage modifying tag blue card. Just a really, really good character all around, again, especially for anti-movies and anti-yellow transforming Gohan, who's an oppressively powerful character, but he really bends his knee for this Janemba here. This Janemba's a great counter for him. Next up, Green Golden Frieza, who is a incredibly powerful early game burst damage unit. After his initial time frame wears out, he is arguably much less useful, but because Lineage of Evil is great, because there's lots of powerful blue units, and because Legends Limited Frieza is such a good support unit, he is still holding a pretty high amount of value. It's a good unit, always been a good unit since he came out. Next up, Green Gogeta is arguably your best green slotted role for your Fusions team over Super 17 or the Legends Road Gotenks. Both of them are less useful on Fusions. This Gogeta has the great Immobilize that Janemba has. He also has pretty reasonably good blast damage, okay strike damage, and really good blue card damage. There's just nothing overwhelmingly impressive about his kit. Like, he does everything fairly well, but he doesn't do anything like super amazingly well. So even though he definitely does help the Fusions team out, he's not the most impressive unit. I mean, he was an Ultra Space Time unit, so we'd have to cut him a little bit of slack. Next up, we're dropping down to S. We can get through most of these units even a little bit quicker. I'm going to keep firing forwards here and see if we can get this video knocked out without too much more time involved. So, jumping through, we got the Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta. He has a good assassin role for God Key. Kind of competes with this God Q, the purple God Q, for a placement, but again, because they serve different roles and he's good at assassinating and killing locked-in units, he still holds a good bit of value. The blue support Goku is actually probably your best damage support and healing both in one unit for Saiyans in the entire game, but his main drawback is that he's super squishy. He can generally get one comboed on most neutral situations, and again, you do not want him taking hits. And that does work well. It's like they encourage you to want to swap him out a lot to get his damage buff passive going. But it is, you just really don't want to make mistakes with him. He's very squishy, which is mainly the biggest reason that hurts his value here. He's got pretty good team placements, but just low defenses. Next up, which is kind of funny, like at first I thought it was kind of a joke that Zamasu was still high ranking, but after seeing him appear on the tier list here quite a few times now, and understanding the specific strategy in mind, he does actually earn the spot and likely deserve it. Now, Zamasu is still S tier, specifically on a team of Zenkai 7 Fat Buu, or Zenkai Fat Buu, and Super Baby 2. Zenkai Buu, if you remember when we talked about earlier, does not have any cover change defensive buffs, does not have endurance, so he's not good to throw in front of a Rising Rush, unless it's a blue unit using the Rising Rush, but outside of that, he's not good to throw into really heavy hits or Rising Rushes. That's where Zamasu comes in. Zamasu's got the endurance, has incredible cover change defensive buffs, so he comes in and takes all the heavy hits. He maximizes the effects from Baby's healing passives to heal the whole team and to heal himself from endurance and such. Boo's over there healing himself. So with that specific team build, it is a nightmare team to fight up against. It's just really annoying to deal with, extremely toxic. So under those specific circumstances, I can see Zamasu holding value here, especially because he does have the flat damage buffs against Saiyans and Hybrid Saiyans also. So even though his damage is not the best, he is still 100% functional under these specific circumstances, again. Next up, Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Goku. He is a great yellow option for God Key. He does good damage, he can take hits fairly well, deletes cards, has a repeatable, powerful blue card combo. His transformation is timed, which is a little unfortunate. And if you have him 6 stars or higher, he can be used just generically on any Saiyan's teams, which is also quite nice. Overall, he's a fairly well-rounded character in terms of stats, capable of doing good things. It's just, I think, the time duration hurts his transformation much more than even some other characters with time transformation. Next up, we have the blue Gogeta. Nothing has changed with him for quite a while. We don't have to spend too much time on him, but he's a great blast damage dealer, great special move nuker, and great defensive unit for your fusion-based teams. Not really functional in too many places outside of there. Next up, we have EX Broly. Again, another unit that is extremely well kitted, but just really only fits onto yellow, yellow, blue, or like the 6 Broly team meta. But again, he can do really good damage. He's got little utility lock-ins that he can abuse, and good defenses, good enough anyways, or he can take hits. Just, struggles a little bit on team placements, but just because he is so dang good, he deserved a spot on this list. There are probably also some other EX units that deserve to be on this list as well, but again, I didn't make it, so I'm just going with what I have presented here for me today. Next up, we have EX Whis, who is very highly ranked still for an EX unit after all this time. Do have Rosey as probably a better option, but you'd be bringing them for separate reasons. Again, Whis is the healer, the green card provider, the specific buffer extra for Beerus, so there still is some options to use the Whis. I just generally think in most cases you would prefer to run the Rosey. So Whis still amazingly good for an EX unit, but, just a little bit competitive placement for his team there. Next up, we have the Super Saiyan Blue Goku, who is, again, another unit that's been out for almost a year now, since last anniversary. Great defensive unit that transitions into offensive unit with the 100% Vanish Restore to Force Win Neutral. So he is a good unit. We don't have to spend too much time on him. He's holding value because God Key team is still quite nice. So there's no real reason to dock too many points of him as of right now. There's nothing that's come out really to replace him either. Next up, we have Fusion 13. So for whatever reason you're not running Majin 21, Red 18, and Free-to-Play 21, you're running one, you still want to run androids, Fusion 13 then is great for your more masculine version of the androids builds. Combine him with like Super 17, the blue 13, or green 14, a couple different options you'll have. That team is still competitive, although probably not as top tier as some of the other teams we've been covering so far. So still a good unit, very well kitted, good things he can accomplish, but just perhaps his team is, again, not as highly ranked as some others. Next up, we have the base form Red Vegeto, essential bench unit for your Fusions teams, especially now with the yellow transforming Vegeto out now. The more Vegetos, the better, because his last portion of his Z ability gives the damage to Vegetos. And the first part is defense for everybody. Lots and lots of defense that they make very good use of. Now, even if you bring him to battle, he can still do the 10-second lock-in and other competitive aspects of him in the fight, mostly for his defense, his card deletion when he uses blue cards, and that 10-second lock-in. Outside of that, his real value comes from that amazing Fusion's Z ability. Next up, we have Zenkai 7 Broly, character who's capable of dealing out lots of punishment and taking it as well. He just has lots of competitive placements for the movies team, and I don't know, he's still a really, really good character. I fought against him at Zenkai 7, and he was a huge pain in the butt. It's just, I don't know, in terms of the other Zenkai characters, he probably has a little bit less to offer than some of the other stuff we're seeing floating around. So next up, we have the Zenkai Super Saiyan Goku, the oldest unit in the game, turned Zenkai. It's still probably the worst out of all the Zenkai units. I see the yellow Goku Black much further down the list, but that Goku deserves higher placement for sure. So we'll get to that later. But this Zenkai Goku, a little bit specific in his usage against LOE. His buffs aren't the best, but he still is much, much, much better after Zenkai than what he was. So still competitive, still usable now after Zenkai, but just probably, I guess, one of the least impressive Zenkai units so far. Next up, we have Shenron, an amazing tanking and defense unit for your GT teams. He's got the same kind of endurance setup that the yellow full power Frieza has, but for GT, and he synergizes again amazingly well with Super Baby 2. It's very, very hard to kill this Shenron, but he has relatively no offensive damage output whatsoever. So you're bringing him specifically for his defenses and his healing synergy with Baby, and his buffs when the enemy uses Rising Rush to kind of help dissuade them from using that. But other than that, he's, again, not a damage dealer. Just lots and lots of defensive value. Next up, we have pretty much the entire EX Ginyu Force and Frieza Force setup going on between the EX Ginyu. Now, this is also EX Bardock, EX Recoome. They're all kind of placed in this one spot because they're all extremely valuable, and they all are generally on very similar or the same team builds. So EX Ginyu Force and the Ginyu Goku, both right here. They team well together, and they also team extremely well with the DBS Broly Chilai to really prevent the enemy from Rising Rush at all. Meanwhile, you're getting like 2 to 3 Rising Rushes. So very frustrating, very competitive team. They definitely all earn their placements where they're at. Next up, Purple Transforming Cooler. Dropped a little bit because you now have the Legends Limited Frieza as kind of a better purple role for the team. However, this cooler is still one of your best defensive units in the game, with his kit being great for defenses just in the stat department, and then him having tons of key restore and other good offensive buffs as well. So extremely well-rounded character, at least after he transforms. Great defense, just a little bit of color competition within his own team. But, you know, again, if you don't have the Legends Limited Frieza, then he's a great option. But we already covered, you know, why we have to do the list this way. Next up, Hit is a unit that does overwhelmingly amazing amounts of damage, but still struggles from no good team placements and horrible defenses. He usually gets one combo, so you have to play Protect the Hit and just do as much damage as possible with him on some interesting or wonky styled team builds. Next up, Red Transforming Frieza arguably has a little bit more value, but still, his transformation, when it ends, he does get a lot of negative effects from that, like minus 100 ki, minus tons of useful stats. And before he transforms, he's really only good at stalling and healing, things like that. Now, once he transforms, lots of good strike damage, lots of good blue card damage, but he is a character that does suffer from the time transformation, kind of similar to this blue Kaioken Goku right here. So, great on Lineage of Evil, pretty decent on Frieza Force, but you generally will only bring him when you need his color coverage, because you do have a few better Lineage of Evil options ahead of him. Next up, Gohan. Amazing regeneration unit, amazing damage, amazing green card bubble shield. Everything about him is amazing. He's only losing value because the Zenkai 7 Fat Buu is a little bit better. You know, he's actually a lot of bit better, but not for dealing damage. Then you want Gohan. Gohan's your damage dealer. And then you got your healer who's almost unkillable, and just the Fat Buu synergizes with the rest of the team, heals everybody, just better than the Gohan does. But again, we cannot knock Gohan for his offensive value and his great green card. Next up, we have the baby Vegeta. He is a character who in most circumstances is just kind of average, but once you're down to a 1v1 situation where it's this baby Vegeta able to apply his debuffs to the enemy and they can't swap out of them, in that situation, he's actually pretty amazing. But that doesn't happen super often, and you have to do a lot of work to set up that play. So because of that, he's definitely lower value than some other units. But again, under those circumstances, he can pretty much guarantee you the win at that point. Next up, LF Super Saiyan 3 Goku. I do think this Goku deserves to be higher. I would personally place him at the end of S Plus here near this green Gogeta, upwards of right in front of Zamasu. Somewhere in that range is likely where I would put this Super Saiyan 3 right here. That's pretty much where he belongs. He's actually a very good unit, especially with his Platinum equip, especially teamed with Bardock and Shallots and Legends Limited Namek Goku. He is just very, very good for his defense, for his instant transmission cover save, and for his ultimate arts nuking capabilities, and also his green card, if I didn't already just mention that. But his damage isn't the best until late game, but once it gets there, once he starts nuking, once he starts instant transmissioning and saving you from rising rushes, he will display his value, which again, I think should be higher. Moving down to A here, get through these guys even a little bit quicker, except for some of them we'll spend a little bit of time on, but we definitely want to keep the video pushing forwards here. Next up, we have Kid Buu. He is not really as competitive as the Janemba. He suffers from lack of ki. His green card, while good, is not the immobilized with the card deletion that Janemba has. And as well, his paralyzed on red cards is not super reliable. You can't like bank plays around getting that paralyzed in. It's just kind of random, helpful when it goes off, but still random. So because of that and his key requirements being so high, when him not having it when he needs it, he does lose out to the Janemba a little bit. This green Raddatz is okay in battle. He's kind of like a Saiyan's version of this green golden Frieza with the early game overwhelming damage, but then he falls off relatively quickly. And outside of that, he does have an amazing Z ability bench for Saiyan's teams. I believe he is a double offense buffer if you get him start up enough, which makes him, again, invaluable for the bench, but maybe a unit you might not actually use in battle. Kind of like the blue EX Raddatz. Next up, we have yellow GT Vegeta. He has competition with Sin Shenron, or just not bringing a yellow unit at all in favor of a better GT build. But he is a good bench for Saiyans with what, blast damage and blast defense, I do believe, on his Z ability. So for, again, blast damage Saiyans, he's a good bench unit. Also a good debuffer, just not too many reasons to actually bring him to battle. Next up, we have Legends Limited Gohan, who's falling off a little bit because he's getting power crept in terms of his stats a little bit. As well, we have the new Trunks, who is arguably much better for hybrids because he is just good throughout the entire fight and has the good anti-regeneration buffs. However, this Gohan still does hold value for being a last man standing unit that does an incredible amount of damage. Son family teams and hybrid teams aren't as relevant right now, and will likely start to pick up better options. And as well, this Gohan is, again, old and limited, so pretty rare. So all of these things do kind of impact his value. You know, there's better options for hybrids with the Trunks. You have, you know, Son family not being as relevant and full of last man standing units already. So just, you know, lots of contention and power creeping going on here. Next up, Green Movies Goku. Great defense unit. Great nuker, but struggles to fit in on any top meta teams. Blue Pod Frieza is also a reasonable damage dealer, blast armor, good nuker. He's great on Frieza Force, he's okay on Lineage of Evil, but there are arguably better choices. He is edging out the Blue Cooler comparative to Rusmir now, so I'm curious as to why that is. But again, he's not bad, he's just not as useful as some of your better choices. EX Zangya. She is, I guess, competitive enough as an EX unit to belong on the list, but you have plenty of better options for movies with, of course, Vegeta, Broly, and Zenkai Broly. Cooler's next was the supporting damage dealing passive hander-outer, I guess you could say, for Lineage of Evil team. Well, I botched that sentence really bad. But yeah, he used to be your like lead supporter. I guess now that Limited Frieza is out, you don't really need this Cooler, and you have better options, I suppose. So I guess that's why his value's starting to fall off a little bit here. But if you have a lot of red stars on him, he is definitely still usable. Just probably, again, not as competitive as some newer units. My mouse battery died. So next up, we have the Green Future Gohan. His value probably dropped ever since they added the future tag to the LF Vegeta, because LF Vegeta is going to synergize much better with future Rosey, with the God Key debuffs and stuff. So he is losing value now, mostly because of that. Will likely still be a functional unit for future, or Son family or hybrids, just not as competitive with better options further up the list. Still good green card after transformation for its like pseudo time-based lockout. Next up, we have the brand new Imperfect Cell, who is kind of struggling for placements. He doesn't fit on Regeneration super well. I think he's mostly meant for future, but again, we have LL Vegeta taking up that role. I mean, I guess you could use him on androids instead of Super 17 or Android 14, but he's another one of those characters that is not immediately useful. Like, you don't just swap into him and he's good. You need to build his passives. You need to use his main ability, which is only a one-time usage. And you need to rely on the enemy swapping out once, maybe twice. Under all those circumstances, once you've built all of his buffs under, again, those situations happening, then he is actually pretty competitive. It's just getting all that requires a lot of risk, a lot of work, and that's why his value is a little bit lower. He initially released as much more of a side grade optional unit and not a team defining unit. Next up, Super 17. Pretty low offensive value, but good defenses, good cover change into yellow cards, and good paralyze all ultimate arts cards. It's just, again, male androids, not the females versions, is not as relevant as females, so not as high tier. And on GT, you still have better options to run than him for defense and for offense also. So struggles for placement a little bit. Red Metal Cooler is next. Is arguably okay for Lineage of Evil if you don't have the red transforming Frieza. Not very good for movies or regeneration, but he's I don't know, he's a healer and a kind of a debuffer card destroyer. He's a useful unit, just not as competitive as, again, better units further up the list. Purple, Android 17. We just talked about the male version of androids and how they're not as competitive. There's no way he holds a candle up against Majin 21 in any way, which is why his value has dropped down significantly. Super Saiyan Bardock has a great set of passives and stuff he does for his Super Saiyan friends, but his stats are at this point highly non-competitive. Alright, now here we're getting to my first major disagreement with Rusmir's tier list. I would take this Zenkai Goku Black and plop him probably kind of in the same range I did for the Super Saiyan 3 LF Goku, kind of at the bottom end of S+ after Gogeta, up to where this Zamasu is. Because, again, Future is an up-and-coming team. He'll have a great place on that team. Outside of that, he doesn't really fit in anywhere, but he is quite powerful once he's fully boosted, and I do expect Future to be a very powerful team here very soon. Support unit for Future, Mai here. Next. Her damage numbers were never that great. She can do great things for the team, though. She is a great supporting unit. However, in most cases, the Legends Limited Vegeta is going to be a much better choice to bring to battle over Mai. This blue base form 13 is next. Again, we already covered why male androids isn't as relevant, and that is why his value is lower. You want to run female androids if you want the top meta, top tier team. I mean, he is usable, just nowhere near as competitive. This blue Vegeta doesn't tag well for God Key, so that kind of eliminates him from being really good on God Key. And Vegeta family is not really the greatest of teams right now. He is a very good comboer, very good at picking up Dragon Balls and comboing for long periods of time, but overall just not a super competitive unit. Gotank's Super Saiyan 3 has been all but replaced for battle on fusions by the transforming Vegeto. However, you definitely still want him on your fusions bench for his HP health buffs. That is now where 100% of his value is a health bench buffer for fusions. No in-combat value now with Vegeto out, but those health buffs are very nice, very helpful, and help you survive much longer in battle. Next up, the worst limited unit out of all of them, mostly due to team placements and narrow kit, is Goten. He is good on Son family, which is not hyper relevant right now. Hybrids as well are not hyper relevant right now, and you would likely want to run the Zenkai Super Saiyan 2 Gohan over him. He's mostly blast damage, a little bit of support for Gohan, so you could theoretically run him with the Zenkai Gohan if you wanted to. I still think this Transforming Trunks would probably be better, but very narrow kit based around blast damage and nuking with ultimate arts. He does not take hits very well, and the only real support he does is a little bit of support for Gohan, but outside of that, just very narrow kit. Purple Goku Black is a defense unit who's not even very good at defending. Maybe once Future is more relevant, he'll be a better unit, but right now he's just not super competitive. For Future and Purple, the Trunks is way better. I would definitely give Trunks much more credit over this Goku Black. Next up, Green GT Goku. This doesn't really need him anywhere, but he's a great bench for Saiyan Blast units, very similar to the GT Vegeta. He buffs Blast, Attack, and Strike Defense, I do believe, which again makes him a great bench for any Saiyan Blast type teams but I don't know. He's still usable in battle. It's just for GT, you have, you know, better team build, and for Saiyans, you probably have some better green options as well. I don't know. Again, he's still functional. He's just, you know, starting to get power crept out a little bit here. This red Goku is pretty much just a bench for GT and San family. You have Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, who's vastly superior on GT, and you have red San family units that are likely much better also. You have the Zenkai Goku. Bardock's not really San family, but better for generic Saiyans. And yeah, I don't know. Actually, for San family, I mean, besides the LL Gohan, you probably don't have too many options. But this character's just not ultra great. Great bench though, just not ultra great in battle. Yellow Gohan, he's going to be mostly devalued by the yellow Zenkai Goku Black for future. On hybrids, he's going to be completely devalued by the Super Saiyan 2 transforming Gohan. Green Broly only really fits on Movie's bench or on that 6 Broly team setup. Not super competitive, but he is functional, mostly for green card into blue card damage. Next up, Blue Gohan, defending unit for San family. Again, team's not super highly ranked right now, and you'll have better options for other teams further up the list. Green Ginyu is actually not that bad. I'd actually probably pick him up and move him and lump him up here with the rest of the EX Ginyu Force, just because he provides green cards, and he's not that bad in conjunction with, you know, specific Frieza Force, Ginyu Force builds. Beyond this point, this is the not recommended category. We can just fly through this really quickly here, because the video is already pretty much an hour when I said I wanted to keep it shorter than that. So there's not too much we have to go over with most of these characters. The general theme here is, even though they're not recommended for battle, they still can be perfectly functional bench units. There's no reason to not use them on a bench if you need them. It's just the units above them, and Z, S+, S, and A, are going to be much more competitive and fill all the same roles on teams that these units otherwise would fill. So they're either bench units or just significantly less competitive options than units further up the list. Again, all this might change in the future as team metas change and characters get Zenkais and all that crazy stuff. But for now, bench only, or just, again, much less competitive options if you happen to want to run a team and you're missing something further up the list. Purple Gotenks, bench on fusions, no other value right now. This Trunks, bench for hybrids, no other value right now. Blue 18, bench for blue units and anti-hybrid Saiyan damage, not very useful. Yellow Frieza is nowhere near as competitive as yellow full power Final Form Frieza. His Z ability is terrible, his stats are just non-competitive. Yellow Beau Jack, significantly worse than both yellow Gohan, purple Beau Jack, and green EX Beau Jack. No reason to bring him on the team. The Legends Road Trunks, just not really competitive, no team placement. Android 14, you have better options for androids above. This red Super Saiyan 3 Goku was never good. Tapion is actually okay, and he is usable. If you do not have Janemba, or if you don't have another movie's option, you could totally bring him. It's just his damage is not very impressive. All he does is lock stuff up. That's pretty much his main gimmick. But he is actually one of the characters in the not recommended list that would be more functional than most of the rest of them. Next up, Yellow Trunks is just a hybrids bench, not competitive. Bench for yellow units, HV Goku, not competitive. Kakunsa, alright, here's the thing. Kakunsa, Rosey, and Rebrianne do make a good squad. It is actually competitive. You could run it. It's just not going to be anywhere near as good as 21, Red 18, and this 21. That's really why it's not recommended. But if you don't have 21s and Red 18, then you could run the Universe 2 Kakunsa, Rosey, Rebrianne setup. So I'll give that team a thumbs up, even in this not recommended category. Legends of Gotenks is bad. Support Android, purple 15, bad. Nowhere near as useful as 21, Majin 21 that is. Just trash comparatively speaking. Purple Turles, not competitive, dated. Legends Road Piccolo, which is non-competitive with his own Legends Limited version of himself, or Cell. Next up, one-hand Spirit Bomb Goku, bad Z ability, non-competitive stats. Son Family Goku is just aged out, not super useful, not very competitive. He's one of these units that exists to die to buff other units. In that sense, he's still good, but that's not really something you want to aspire to bring team members for. Red Broly is still arguably somewhat useful on Frieza Force as a red unit, but doesn't fit really any of the meta team builds for it, so he's kind of aged out a little bit for now. This purple That's My Bulma Vegeta was never good, he's bad. Caulifla is next. Purple 21 is much better for females, and Universe 6 doesn't have good structure, so she's not recommended. Yellow Videl, not recommended for anything right now, non-competitive. IT Goku needs a Zenkai, then he'll be amazing, but until then, he's completely non-competitive. Green Cooler is non-competitive for LOE or movies. Green Gohan is unnecessary for Son Family or any builds right now. Kale is the same as Caulifla, non-competitive right now, no Universe 6. This Yellow God Vegeta is much worse than Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Goku for the God Key team. This Blue Trunks is terrible for future, even though he's their only option. He's terrible. His kit is not very good. His stats are not very good. I mean, he's an option for future right now, but he's not a good one. Majin Vegeta was never any good because of the way he debuffs your own team. Yellow Super Saiyan 2 Angel Goku just doesn't have good team placements, bad Z ability. Yardrat Goku Legends Road just doesn't have any competitive placements on any teams. Green Goten is bench for hybrids. Slug could be bench for Regen, but non-competitive with Baby 2. Chi-Chi is okay for anti-Son Family damage, but I mean, that's just not something you want to really build for right now. Blue Piccolo basically loses out to any other version of himself or any other blue unit for Regen also. Yellow Android 18, desperately in need of Zenkai, completely outdated stats and kit. Hercule, good for troll builds only, but I mean, we all know that he's non-competitive and his stats suck, but his kit is great for trolling. Red Cell is desperately in need of a Zenkai. His stats are completely outdated and he's non-competitive. Rildo doesn't have good team placements, even though he does pretty decent work in battle. Demon King Piccolo needs Zenkai and as well a good Dragon Ball Saga team to help back him up. Saiyaman 2, again, just better female options. Red 18 is infinitely better. Green Bardock, good bench for Saiyans, but non-competitive stats. Legends Road Gohan, again, doesn't have competitive team to be on right now. Yamcha was always a trolly, kind of one-off joke-based character. DBS Broly needs a Zenkai. Doesn't have anywhere to fit. Beau Jack is much better on movies, and again, just he doesn't really have any other good placements. It's sad, because he's such a cool unit, but he's just kind of power crept out. He's aged out right now. Yellow Pycon, similar story, just aged out, non-competitive, no good placements. Very similar for Super Boo here. You have much better options with Majin 21, so you will not really see usage on him. Blue Bulma needs better Dragon Ball support. She doesn't have a very good team. She's not good for females right now. Green Piccolo is just old, has aged out quite a bit. Same thing with Purple Janemba, non-competitive stats, better options for their teams. Blue Pan, yeah. Green Android 16 is non-competitive. His offensive stats are terrible. Super 17 is infinitely better, even for defense only. Purple Vegeta needs a Zenkai. He's not useful anywhere. Rosey, I mentioned. She's good with Ribrianne and Kakunsa. Original Broly movie Goku. Non-competitive stats. Spirit Bomb Goku from the shop. Yeah, he's terrible. Non-competitive all the way. He needs a Zenkai too, like real bad for him to ever even be remotely useful. Green Vegeta, just no good team placements from right now. Ribrianne, we covered, again, good for the U2 female squad. Green Bunny Bulma is great support for Dragon Ball Saga team. That just needs to become a team first. Yellow DBS Bardock, defense unit, okay for the yellow role in just generic Saiyans teams, but you have better options. Even the Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Goku's better if you have him at 6 stars for generic Saiyans. Next up, this Nappa is functional under certain team builds, just it's not very competitive. It's not top meta. Krillin is non-competitive. Kaba has no Universe 6 or competitive team placements. Dabura is terrible trash, needs Zenkai. This Gohan needs Zenkai, completely outdated. Chilled has been full-on replaced by Limited Frieza as the support unit for Lineage of Evil, but arguably he's still a good bench for health buffs and health restoration buffs for the LOE team. So great bench, but you'll never see him in battle if you have Limited Frieza. Even if you don't have Limited Frieza, you'll never see him in battle if you've got the purple transforming cooler. Just bench only. Red Vegeta is in no way competitive with Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta for Vegeta family or any type of spot where you would use him. This guy is bench only. The Super Vegeta Yellow is bench only for your Super Saiyan teams until he gets a Zenkai, and Super Saiyan teams aren't super relevant right now. Saiyan Man 2 needs a Zenkai Legends Road. He'll be relevant then. Until then, probably not. Red God Q, amazing bench for God Key teams, but you'll never want to use him in battle. He's way, way, way power crept and inferior stats. Same thing for this Super Saiyan 3 Purple Goku. Amazing bench for Saiyans, but his stats are completely power crept and he's not competitive in battle at all. Red Gogeta is a possible bench for fusions, but now at this point, I do not even use him there. He needs a Zenkai, and then he will be good for the red spot on fusions again. Kaioken Blue Goku, not really competitive, doesn't have any good team placements. And Red Trunks, same story. The new Red Trunks, vastly superior. This guy has non-competitive stats and is completely not usable in battle, especially again compared to the new Red Trunks. So, that is the tier list. We covered it. I'm going to post it on Twitter, so you guys will be able to see it there. Download it, make comments. The video, of course, was quite long. I cover every single relevant character in the game, pretty much every single sparking in the game we covered, and a couple of EX units also. For sure, let me know your opinions on the list, your placements, your thoughts, anything that's on your mind down below in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a thumbs up on it. Help spread it out so more people can see it. I know it's really long, probably not too many people made it this far into the video, but if you did, thank you for supporting the watch time. Thank you for supporting the algorithms and the channel. I appreciate you very, very much. If you're new around here, consider subscribing, hitting the notification bell so I can see you on future uploads, which there will be plenty of. And until next time, I do hope you have a great day. We'll catch you again soon. Peace out, everyone.